I'm doing research on diversity in higher education, and so with that comes kind of looking at the way that we've, approached academia thus far and which voices have and haven't been included. And so that's something that I'm learning about my discipline through my research and through other projects that I'm doing with the philosophy department, as that knowledge has kind of been constructed by a very specific group of people. So in the case of philosophy, old white men, mostly dead old white men. And so it's been interesting to realize that, and then to realize that things are sort of shifting. So there's all these questions about women in the discipline. What is their place? What should we be doing both to encourage women to come to philosophy, and what should we change about philosophy to make women want to stay? And so I've learned that knowledge has historically been constructed in this sort of limiting, very privileged way, and that there are all these places that people are chipping away at it, and it's really cool to be part of that.
The way that I sort of developed this project as well is that rhetoric really is grounded in social action, and human trafficking is an issue that relies very, very heavily on awareness and on the public's perception of it, so that legislators can be pushed into action and that people can know enough to recognize it, and that structures can be put in place to combat it. So between required messages being conveyed effectively and then rhetoric, which that's the essence of rhetoric, it just kind of meshed perfectly.
I think kind of one of the things that's interesting about my research is the theoretical framework that I'm utilizing is very new. I'm working, my mentor is one of like 3 people that are sort of pioneering this idea. So I've had a really, really interesting experience and been able to see this groundwork as to how this whole theoretical structure has been constructed, kind of. So every case that we're looking at is not a case that's been looked at through this lens before. So I've been able to take all these different pieces of both the case and then see them through the lens of strategic narratives. And it's been, I think, really, really beneficial to me, and has made me feel like my research is a lot more important because I'm helping also develop a concept at the same time.
In my discipline, I would say that I've learned that knowledge really is something that can't just be gained easily, nor do you know when you've necessarily gained it. That's something that's definitely a process, especially with this research and with learning what students already know about human trafficking, what they think they know, and then what they hope to find out. It's really interesting across students and within one student's perspective, even just seeing that there really is a learning curve, even within a few minutes of talking to them, between what they thought human trafficking was and then what they're realizing it is, or even when looking at website materials, what they first see from it, and then just spending a couple seconds more intentionally looking at it, then what messages they derive from it.
In rhetorical theory, there's usually this idea that a text is sort of in relationship with its author and its audience, all in a certain context. And so what's really illuminating when you apply that lens to dance is that you see the text, it's the choreography, you see the audience very clearly because it's the people watching, and the context is often talked about, but what's interesting is the question of authorship, because usually when dance scholars or any of us talk about who's writing a dance event, they're talking about the choreographer, the person who actually makes the choices about what the steps are and how they're done. But what I think is really interesting is looking at not the choreographers, but the dancers, the practitioners as authors, and the choices that they're making that impact in very important ways the meaning of the dance event. So that's been sort of the crux of my research, is what happens when you look at dancers' personal narratives and experiences from that perspective.